The sky over planet Virelia burned red as human forces descended from above. The peace treaty had shattered without warning. Explosions echoed across the barren hills while the ground shook beneath the feet of both armies. No one knew who fired the first shot, but blood had already soaked the soil. Commander Ryan of Earth's Terran Guard stood at the front lines with his sword in hand. His eyes scanned the chaos as laser fire lit the sky. Around him, soldiers shouted, weapons clashed, and shadows danced in the smoke. He had not come here to fight, but to protect what little peace remained. Then from the far side of the battlefield she appeared. Tall, graceful, deadly. The alien warrior was unlike anyone Ryan had ever seen. Her skin shimmered blue under the twin suns. Her long black hair flowed like dark silk behind her. Her eyes burned with golden fury. She moved without sound. Her blade glided like wind. Every soldier who approached her fell before they could scream. She was not just a fighter. She was a legend of her people. Her name, whispered across galaxies, was Valexa, and today she had only one target in mind, Ryan. Their blades clashed with a sound like thunder. Sparks flew as they struck, blocked, and danced around one another. Valexa's moves were perfect, her skill unmatched. But Ryan did not back down. He was fighting for survival, and something deep inside him refused to fall. The duel pulled them away from the others. Neither spoke. They fought among broken stones and burning trees alone in a world of fire. Every breath felt like the last. Then it happened. One perfect strike. Ryan turned. His blade flicked upward, and with a soft hiss, it sliced through the air. Not flesh, not bone, but hair. Valexa froze mid-step. Her long black braid fell to the ground in silence. Her hand slowly reached toward the back of her head. Her eyes widened as her fingers touched the place where her warrior braid had once rested. Ryan lowered his sword. He didn't understand what he had done. His face was confused, not proud. He took a step back and raised his hand to show he meant no insult. The duel had ended, but not as he expected. Valexa dropped her blade. Her knees touched the cracked earth. Her head bowed low before him. Around them, the war raged on. But this moment was silent. The warrior who had defeated entire battalions now knelt before a human. Her voice was soft but clear. "Now I must serve you for life," she whispered. Ryan stared at her, stunned. This was no trick. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from ancient custom. Somewhere in her culture, somewhere deep in her code, this gesture meant surrender. Not just to an enemy, but to a bond far greater than war. He never meant to claim her, he never wanted power. But fate, it seemed, had chosen something else for both of them. The battlefield began to fade from Ryan's awareness as he stared at the kneeling alien girl. The roar of distant fire and cries from soldiers grew distant. All he could see was her Valexa, the warrior who had almost ended him. She remained on her knees, her head still lowered. Her long dark hair, now severed, lay in front of her like an offering. Her breathing was calm, but her body was tense. She did not tremble in fear. She waited for his command. Ryan stepped back carefully. He had not meant to dishonor her. He had only defended himself. Yet something ancient had been triggered. He had crossed a sacred boundary in her culture, even without knowing. "Please," he said softly, "you don't have to do this." His words were met with silence. Valexa raised her eyes but didn't rise. She looked up at him with steady focus. Her golden eyes were no longer filled with rage. They now burned with duty. "The braid is my vow," she said. "To lose it in battle means I am claimed. You are now my charge. My sword belongs to you. My life does too." Her voice held no regret, only truth. The fire behind them cast dancing shadows across the stone floor. More warriors gathered in the distance, both human and alien. But none dared come closer. All watched from afar as something deeper than war took place. "I'm not your master," Ryan said. "I don't want control." His tone was honest. He had never asked for this. But Valexa shook her head slowly, her loyalty unwavering. "You spared me," she said. "You could have ended my life. Instead, you gave me a new one. That is the highest honor among my people. My path now follows yours. That is our way." She touched the ground with both hands. Ryan looked around, unsure what to do. The war had shifted. This moment had changed everything. He knew the others would not understand. Some would see her as a traitor. Others would see him as a thief. Suddenly, a loud roar broke the silence. A larger alien warrior, taller and heavier than the rest, stepped forward from the flames. His armor was cracked and his weapon still smoked with heat. His name was Korjal, a warlord feared across 3 systems. "She is bound to me," Korjal shouted. "You will release her or die." His voice thundered like a storm. His eyes locked on Ryan with fire. The warriors behind him began to raise their weapons. Valexa stood. Her movements were slow but sure. She did not look at Rian. She looked only at Korjal. Her voice was cold. "I was never yours," she said. "My braid was never cut by you. You do not own what you could not win," Korjal growled in fury. He took a step forward, but Valexa raised her hand. "Come closer," she said, "and I will break you before he must." Her voice no longer whispered. It commanded the fire around her. Ryan stood stunned, sword still in hand. He saw the loyalty in her eyes, and something else, something new. Not submission, but trust. It was deeper than tradition. It came from choice. He stepped beside her. Not in front, not behind. He raised his blade not as a master, but as an equal. The 2 of them now stood against the rest, and the war had just found its turning point. Korjal stood still, his chest rising and falling with every angry breath. The giant warlord had expected fear. Instead, he was met with defiance. Valexa's words had struck him harder than any blade. The air around them felt heavy. Soldiers from both sides waited in silence. No one moved. No one dared interrupt the moment. Something ancient was being tested, and no warrior wished to dishonor it. Ryan felt the tension, but stayed calm. He didn't understand all the customs of Valexa's people, but he knew honor when he saw it. And he knew he would not let her stand alone. Korjal slowly raised his axe. The weapon gleamed under the firelight. "Then both of you will fall," he growled. His voice was low and sharp, like a blade before it strikes. He began to march forward. Valexa stepped ahead of Ryan. Her body blocked the path. "You must defeat me first," she said. "Not by force, but by right. The bond is sealed. Only battle can break it. This is the law of the braid." Korjal laughed. "Then I will tear the law with my hands," he shouted. But even his own warriors did not cheer. Some looked down. Others stepped back. Fear was spreading through the ranks like smoke. Without warning, Korjal charged. His heavy footsteps shook the ground. He roared like a beast, raising his axe high. Valexa did not flinch. She stood still until the last moment. Then she moved like lightning. She ducked under his swing and struck his side with the back of her blade. It was not meant to kill. It was meant to warn. Her honor did not allow bloodshed unless needed. Korjal staggered and turned in rage. Ryan stepped forward now. He raised his sword and stood beside Valexa. "We stand together," he said, "and we will not bow to threats." His voice rang with courage. It echoed through the hall like steel against stone. Korjal looked from one to the other. His chest heaved with fury. But even he saw what others had already seen. This was not a moment for victory. This was a moment for retreat. And he could feel the eyes of his people on him. With a final growl, he lowered his axe. "This is not over," he muttered. He turned away and walked back into the crowd. The firelight flickered on his back as he vanished into the shadows. The silence was deep. Then a few aliens knelt. Then more. Warriors from both sides began to bow their heads, not in defeat, but in respect. The bond between Ryan and Valexa had become more than ritual. It had become legend. Valexa turned to him. Her eyes were softer now. You chose to stand with me, she said, even when you could have stepped away. Her voice carried no pride. Only thanks. Ryan nodded. You're not my servant, he said. You're my ally, my friend. He looked around at the kneeling warriors. He knew this was only the beginning. A single moment had changed the path of two worlds. They walked together, side by side, through the still battlefield. The fires no longer raged, the weapons were quiet, but their journey was far from over. In every shadow a new threat waited. Days passed since the clash with Korjal. The battlefield had turned quiet, but the tension between the two species still remained. Peace was not yet written, only paused by honor and fear. Ryan and Valexa traveled beyond the war camps, guided by silence and unspoken understanding. The stars above them blinked through the night like watchful eyes. Their footsteps led them into unknown lands. Valexa moved ahead with purpose. She was not running, she was leading. Ryan followed close behind, his sword strapped to his side. He had never imagined his life would change through a single strike. They stopped near the edge of a glowing canyon. Strange plants lit the path in blue and green light. The air smelled of minerals and energy. Ryan looked over the cliff, seeing nothing but a sea of mist. This is where my people meditate, Valexa said. Before a vow is sealed in soul, we must pass the test of fire. Only then will the bond be forever. She turned and met his eyes. Ryan stepped forward. I thought your vow was already made, he said. You knelt. You spoke. What more must be done? His voice held no doubt, only curiosity. He did not question her way. He wanted to understand. She nodded. I made my vow. But you did not. She reached into a small pouch on her belt and took out a stone. It glowed faintly in her palm. You must now decide. Will you accept my life in yours? Not by accident, but by choice. Ryan stared at the stone. It pulsed like a heartbeat. He knew this was not just ritual. It was truth. If he accepted, they would be bound, not only in war, but in fate. He took a slow breath and extended his hand. I accept, he said. The stone warmed in his grip. It turned from blue to gold. A wind blew gently across the cliffside. The light around them grew brighter. The bond had now been sealed by both. Suddenly, a loud screech filled the canyon. Valexa turned sharply. They followed us, she whispered. From behind the rocks, shapes began to appear, tall and dark with glowing red eyes. These were not warriors. They were hunters. Ryan pulled his sword. Valexa drew her blades. The two stood back to back. The creatures circled them like wolves. Their skin was scaled and black. Their teeth long and sharp, they hissed with hunger. They are called the Draxil, Valexa said. They feed on life force. They hunt during soul bonding. This is no accident. They seek to break the ceremony. Ryan gripped his weapon tight. Then we fight, he said. Together. He looked over his shoulder at her. She gave a small nod. No fear in her eyes. Only fire. The Draxil attacked. The first leaped through the air. Valexa spun and sliced its chest mid-flight. Ryan struck down another with a clean cut. Their movements were in sync. Like two parts of one mind, claw marks scraped across Ryan's shoulder. Valexa took a hit to the arm, but neither fell. They fought through pain, through noise, through the shadows that tried to pull them apart. When the last Draxil fell, silence returned. Blood soaked the stones beneath their feet. Ryan wiped his blade and looked at Valexa. Her face was bruised, but her stance was proud. She did not fall. She did not yield. We passed your test, he said with a grin. She smiled slightly and whispered, No, we passed ours. The bodies of the Draxil lay still on the stone floor. Their black blood shimmered under the pale light of the twin moons. Ryan stood beside Valexa, his breath steady, his grip firm on the hilt of his sword. The silence felt sacred. No more enemies moved in the shadows. Only the wind whispered through the cliffs. Valexa stepped forward and touched the glowing stone that still rested in the center of the platform. The stone dimmed as her fingers met it. The bond is now sealed beyond flesh and blade, she said. Even the creatures of hunger could not break it. Her voice held quiet pride. Rian looked at her. Then what comes next? He asked. Will your people accept what we've done? His question was honest. He had no wish to force change. But the events had chosen them both. Valexa sheathed her blades. Some will reject it, she said. Some will fear it. But others will see the truth. And truth cannot be ignored forever. Her eyes met his with certainty. They left the canyon behind. Their journey took them through ruins of forgotten battles. Old banners lay torn in the dust. Crushed helmets and rusted weapons lined the path. The war had lasted too long. At a distant ridge they saw the glow of the council spire. It rose like a tower of crystal from the ground, pulsing with alien light. This was the heart of Valexa's people, and where their fate would be judged. Guards at the entrance raised their weapons as the two approached. Valexa held up her hand. Stand down, she said. We come with purpose, not harm. The guards hesitated, then lowered their spears. Inside the spire, the council waited. 13 elders sat in a circle of blue flame. Their robes shimmered like liquid metal. Their eyes glowed with ancient power. They looked upon Rian with suspicion. One of the elders stood. Her voice echoed without sound. Valexa, why have you brought the human into our sacred ground? She asked. He is not of our kind. He is not of our law. Valexa stepped forward. He is of my vow, she said. He did not ask for it. He earned it. I severed my braid with honor. He accepted, the bond with heart. I stand with him by law and by will. Another elder leaned forward. The law is clear, he said, but the heart is not. Does the human understand what your service means? What burden it carries? His tone was sharp, testing. Rian answered before Valexa could speak. I did not take her vow to own her, he said. I accepted it because she gave it with strength. She does not kneel to be weak. She stands with me in power. The flames in the chamber flickered. The council whispered among themselves. Some nodded. Some frowned. At last, the oldest among them raised her hand and silence returned. Then let the trial of echoes decide, she said. You both shall enter the Hall of Mirrors. If your hearts speak the same truth, the bond will be honored. If not, it will be broken. Valexa nodded without fear. Rian gave a short nod as well. Neither backed down. They stepped through the glowing arch as the council watched. The Hall of Mirrors opened before them, like a breath held too long. And what waited inside would test more than their courage. The Hall of Mirrors was quiet and cold. Its walls shimmered like water frozen in light. As Rian and Valexa stepped inside, the entrance closed behind them with a soft hum. The room seemed endless. Reflections of themselves stretched in every direction. Each mirror showed not just their bodies, but their thoughts, fears, and hidden truths. There was no hiding here. This place will test our bond, Valexa said. It will show us as we are, not as we pretend to be. If one of us falters, the hall will collapse, and the council will break the vow. Rian nodded. Then we speak. Only the truth, he said. No shame, no fear. His voice was calm, but he felt the weight in his chest. The mirrors around them began to ripple. A soft light appeared before Rian. It shaped itself into a memory. He saw Earth burning, cities in ruins, friends lost in war. He saw himself standing alone, tired and broken. The image struck deep. I came here hoping to end war, he said. But all I found was more of it. Until her. He turned to Valexa. She gave me reason again, not as a soldier, as a man. The mirrors pulsed. The vision faded. Now Valexa's memory formed. She saw herself as a child, holding her first blade, training under harsh masters, learning not to feel, being told love was weakness. I believed honor meant victory, she said. But it is more than battle. It is choice, and I chose him. Her reflection looked back at her with softness she never showed before. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted. A new mirror rose from the floor. This one did not reflect light. It reflected fear. Inside it, Valexa saw herself turning on Ryan, and Ryan saw himself leaving her behind. The vision was cruel. It played on every doubt they held inside, but neither moved. Neither turned away. Ryan stepped forward and touched the glass. His hand passed through the surface without pain. "I will not run," he said. "Not from her. Not from this." His words echoed through the chamber like a vow stronger than steel. Valexa stood beside him. She placed her hand next to his. "And I will never turn my blade on him," she said. "Even if the world commands it. I stand by him because I choose to, not because I must." The mirror cracked down the middle. Light burst from its center. The reflections around them shattered like ice, leaving only one image standing. In it, Ryan and Valexa stood together, not as master and servant, but as equals. A doorway opened at the far end of the hall. The council stood waiting, their faces unreadable. Ryan and Valexa stepped out side by side, calm and proud. The elder raised her hand. "The hall speaks truth," she said. "The bond stands. It was not formed by force. It was forged in choice and proven in fire." Some in the council still frowned, but most nodded, and none spoke against the verdict. The law had spoken. The ancient vow had been honored. Valexa turned to Ryan and whispered, "They see now. Not because I served you, but because we stood together." Ryan looked at the stars above the spire. Something greater than war had just begun. The days that followed the trial of echoes spread across the stars like whispers carried by wind. News of the accepted bond between a human and an alien warrior moved faster than any fleet. Some called it betrayal. Others called it a miracle. But none could deny its power. Two species that once shed blood across battlefields now had a symbol standing between war and peace. Ryan and Valexa were invited to speak at the Grand Assembly of Factions. It was held on the floating city of Eularis, where leaders of many systems gathered once every decade. Their ship arrived under the eyes of 1,000 drones. Each camera watched as the human and the alien warrior walked together. Neither wore weapons. They came with open hands and strong hearts. Inside the great hall, thousands sat in silence. Flags from 100 worlds hung from the ceiling. Leaders of every kind stared at Ryan and Valexa as they stepped onto the central platform. Ryan cleared his throat. "I never came to claim anyone," he said. "Not her. Not power. I came to survive. But what I found was worth more than any victory." He looked at Valexa. She nodded and stepped forward. "We were raised to fight," she said. "To win, but never to understand. Until now. I gave him my braid, but he gave me his trust. That is greater than any blade." Murmurs moved through the crowd. Some still frowned. Others leaned forward, curious. The two stood without shame. They stood like equals before the galaxy's judgment. A voice from the left rose. It belonged to a war general from the planet Thorax. "Words are easy," he said. "But what happens when your alliance is tested? What happens when real blood is spilled?" Before Ryan could reply, a loud alarm echoed through the chamber. Red lights flashed. A security officer rushed onto the stage. "A rogue fleet is approaching," he shouted. "Unknown origin. No response to hails." Panic spread through the room. Some leaders fled. Others called their guards. The assembly broke into shouting and fear. But Ryan and Valexa did not move. They turned to each other, then to the window above. In the sky, dark ships pierced the clouds, their weapons charged with orange fire. The fleet was not from Earth or Virelia. It was something else. Something older. Something forgotten. Valexa's voice was steady. "They are the Voidborn," she said. "My people told stories of them. shadows that feed on war and peace alike. They rise when unity is close. They exist to keep it broken. Ryan clenched his jaw. Then we give them no room to strike, he said. He turned to the leaders who remained. If you ever believed in your laws, your banners, your worlds, then stand with us now. Not tomorrow. Now. Some still hesitated, but others rose. One by one, soldiers, ambassadors, and captains joined them at the center. The fear was real, but so was the choice. Ryan and Valexa walked to the command deck of the Spire. From there, they would help lead the defense, not as saviors, not as rulers, but as proof that two souls from enemy worlds could become something greater. Together they would face the storm. The sky above Eularis darkened as the Voidborn fleet broke through the upper clouds. Their ships had no markings, no signals, no faces. Only silence and death followed their arrival. Explosions rocked the edge of the city as defense towers began to fire. Shields flared and flickered. Drones scrambled to intercept. Panic filled the streets, but inside the Spire, the command deck held steady. Ryan and Valexa stood side by side before the central control panel. Holograms of the battlefield hovered. Before them, dots marked allies and enemies. The red dots were spreading fast. Send coordinates to the outer cannons, Ryan ordered. Hold fire until my signal. His voice was calm and sharp. He had seen war before. But this time, he had more than soldiers behind him. Valexa activated the ancient Varelian combat code, linking her mind to the battle grid. Her thoughts moved, faster than commands. I see their weak points, she said. They leave their flanks open during energy resets. We strike when they blink. Ships from Earth and Varelia moved into formation. For the first time in history, they fought under one command, one human, one alien, bound not by treaty but by trust. The first wave hit hard. Voidborn fire cracked open two outer ships. Screams echoed through the comms. But the Allies held position. No one broke formation. Ryan clenched his fists as the next orders formed in his mind. Now, he said. All ships focus fire on the third cruiser. Hit it before it cloaks again. His words spread like lightning. A dozen warships turned and unleashed their fury. The enemy ship exploded into a ball of blue flame. A cheer rose through the comms. It was short-lived. A new enemy signal appeared. Larger, darker, their command vessel. Valexa narrowed her eyes. That ship controls them all, she said. If we take it down, the rest will fall into chaos. She pointed to a hidden corridor of space behind the moons. We flank through there, but someone has to lead the charge. Ryan looked at her. We go together, he said, like always. She nodded. No more words were needed. They boarded the lead strike cruiser and took the helm themselves. The ship moved fast through the dark gap. Enemy sensors missed their approach. As the main command vessel came into view, Ryan locked the target. Fire all we have, he said. End this now. Missiles, beams, and kinetic blasts struck the enemy's heart. For a moment, the sky turned white. The shockwave knocked several Allied ships backward. But when the light faded, the Voidborn command ship was gone. The remaining enemy vessels drifted without order. Some turned and fled. Others powered down completely. The threat was over. The war had ended not with surrender, but with unity. Back, in the Spire, the assembly returned. Wounds were counted, losses mourned, but victory was claimed. Ryan and Valexa stood before the leaders once more, now not as speakers, but as legends. An elder from a neutral world stepped forward. This bond began with a blade, he said. But it ended with a choice. Let history remember not the war, but the vow that turned enemies into hope. Valexa turned to Ryan. Her voice was soft. My braid was cut in battle, she said. But you gave it meaning. You did not take me. You walked with me. Ryan looked at her and nodded. And I will continue to walk with you, he said. Not because of duty, but because it is right. And under the stars of a healed sky, They stood together as the first bridge between two worlds.